Good afternoon again, everyone. My name is Pankul. I am the director at Cedar Management Consulting. We'll initiate our discussion for panel 3 now. So our panel 3 will talk about AI in action, pioneering the next wave of digital banking. With this, I would like to invite my first panelist on the stage, please. Our first panelist is from First Abu Dhabi Bank. I would like to invite Srinivasan Sampath on the stage, please. A quick introduction. Sampath is the GTTO BIP. I am using that short form because the big man carries the big designation. I'll translate it now. He's the head of Group Technology and Transformation Office, Business Intelligence and Planning. Welcome, Sampath, on the stage, please. Our next panelist is from Reem Finance. I would like to invite Mohammad Roushdy on the stage, please. So Mohammad is the CIO at Reem Finance. Welcome, Mohammad.
Thank you.
Our next panelist is from Backbase, Nanji. Please come on the stage. So Ali is the Regional Sales Director, Middle East at Backbase. With this, I will invite my final panelist on the stage, Venkat Narayanan. So Venkat is the founder and CEO, BigTapp Analytics, an APAR company. A warm welcome to all of you. Let's start with the audience first, with the raise of hands. So we have been talking a lot on AI, and looks like AI is changing everything. So with a show of hands, I would request my audience to say whether they agree or disagree. Who here thinks that their bank understands their financial needs better than what Netflix understands your movie needs? With a raise of hands. I'll repeat my question, whether bank understands your financial needs or Netflix understands better your movie needs. Okay, just two people. So we need to do better as a bankers and fintechs.
Two consultants, by the way.
So we'll begin our discussion. See, we have been talking a lot on AI since morning. They gave me a panel on AI, and they told that, okay, you will talk about AI. But since morning, everyone has been talking about AI. So let's see what's left for us. Did you know that 75% of the banks by end of 2025, I'll say 75% of the big banks by end of 2025, are expected to have fully integrated AI into their strategic planning and intelligence. Now with this, Sampath, my question is to you. You are part of the biggest bank in UAE, and you have been leading the business intelligence and planning division. So how is AI influencing business planning, I'll say business strategy, planning, and intelligence at First Abu Dhabi Bank?
Yeah. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Nice to be part of the panel. From our perspective, I think AI is going to influence a big way in terms of what we are doing going forward from analysis, planning, strategy, across technology, business, and support functions. The way we are looking at it, of course, we are progressively improving the way in which we use AI across different layers. What we are at present doing is basically, AI we have been using for quite long. It's not that, AI is something new. We have been using for at least for the past 5 to 6 years in terms of, using AI across various areas of technology and business. What we are doing now is how do we get into the next level of technology, next level of adoption of the AI evolution, which is coming with different new platforms, open platforms. Our initial way is that what we are doing now is we are setting up a foundational platform, which is going to be a base for us to deploy any sort of agentic AI capabilities. The reason why we are doing is, I think, a good part of in 2024 and late part of 2023, we spent a lot of time in setting up the governance framework. I think what is important is to have a proper governance framework, especially we are a large organization. It's important to know that how the governance work, what are the roles and responsibilities, how do you face the consequences, which are the areas that you can start actually deploying AI. So we spent quite a lot of time in setting up the governance and framework, educating, creating awareness across the different layers of the organization, starting from the senior management level. And once we have the governance framework, at least we have the guardrails, how to operate within the guardrails, because we also talked about regulations in the previous panels. So we are a heavily regulated industry. While we use that as an opportunity, but also there are a lot of, constraints and limitations in which how we can, operate. So we have put a complete foundational layer with the guardrails and the security and the data privacy, everything according to what we want. And from that foundational platform now, that's going to be used across business, technology, support functions, cyber security and all this area. The way in which we are going to use that is, any sort of an agentic AI should be able to come and plug into that environment to address a particular use case. It's not that, all use cases are going to be addressed by an agentic AI solution. It might be different capabilities, different requirements for each of what we want to do. So we are going to use quite a bit of analysis and, insights into the entire data that we have using, the capability platforms. So large part of our next year or the next 3-year planning is going to be driven by insights being provided by AI solutions. And also what we are doing is we are putting up some sort of proper tangible measures that we can use to see that how we are leveraging the agentic AI platform and how it's going to benefit. This is across business efficiency, this is across technology efficiency, and this is across cyber security in terms of proactive detection of all those attacks that is coming in. So we have put specific tangible measures year on year. How do we measure the progress of deploying that solutions? So AI is going to actually, just to share, we are at least looking at minimum 30% productivity in the next 2 to 3 years using AI solutions across different layers, right? So that's where we are clear where we want to deploy, what we want to deploy, how we want to approach, and finally, how do we measure in terms of usage of it. There's a large part of solutions from AI perspective we are already leveraging. Just to give an example, which we have really seen is that in a particular business area, a certain research topic used to take at least 2 to 3 weeks in order to go to the market, look at the information, bring the information, compile the information, make it relevant to FAB, how it's going to turn out going forward, looking at various data. So it used to take at least 3 weeks for us to compile that information, and which an agentic AI solution which we deploy in our foundational platform. Now that whole thing is being done in a matter of 3 to 4 hours. So which means that there's a huge sort of leverage that we can get benefit from deploying proper agentic AI solutions. Of course, be cautious of where we need to apply, how we need to apply, and then how the governance framework fits in with what we are doing. So going forward in 2 to 3 years, this is going to play a major part in our planning, strategy, execution in several areas.
So the foundation is laid, and there's a governance already set up. So if out of curiosity, Sampath, I have to ask, when did you begin this journey, and how much time it took for the first pilot to be live?
So our governance almost took 6 to 8 months at least to come up with the proper governance framework. And with the industry evolving and with the awareness also across the people evolving, this governance model also will evolve as we go along, right? This is probably the first version, so we will have multiple versions which will come in. It took us 3 months to set up the foundational platform. And that foundation platform will keep building as blocks, and to deploy the agent, which I told you that, which is giving us a benefit from 20 days to 4 to 5 hours. It took 3 weeks for us to just deploy that agent. Yeah.
Understood. See, things may be different for a large bank. Things may be different for a small financial institution or a small bank. And the research says most mid-sized banks and financial institutions say identifying legally safe AI is tough and has a lot of security concerns. With this, Roushdy, I'll come to you. You leading the IT at Reem Finance, how do you balance the excitement around AI, everyone talking about AI, versus the reality of integration, cost, security?
This is really very valid and a very important question. Thank you for asking me this. Actually, let us go to the basics here. I think there is a hype beyond any new technology. This, of course, AI is not new, by the way. And if I ask you how old is AI, we can just say, okay, 5, 10, 15. I have to tell you that my graduation project was in AI, so you can tell how many years it was, 5 years only, okay? So it was been AI there for a long time. Only the use cases we've been seeing, lately. So the point here to get an AI, the hype in any new technology or which comes to the consumer and people, the hype become really big. You imagine. I remember when we have blockchain at a time, it was like everything. You have any problem, blockchain will sort it for you. Like if you have a stomach ache, take one blockchain before food and one after, something like that. So it was like, technology, everything will be done. Now we are in the same hype, I have to say. Each and every vendor here around us, with respect to all, they have an AI. No presentation you will find from any vendor coming to knock your door unless AI is written somewhere, AI/ML. And now there is generative AI, you're gonna say Gen AI. Though, so the hype is big time is there. It's very important really, from my point of view, is to fit technology into your business. What has been happening, over time, people fitting their business into technology. There's an AI project. There is no AI project, There is a project to serve a business or solve a business or do a business case, which is you have to talk about. So it's very important here that you realize that there is a hype, but at the same time, there is reality where you would like to implement. What you have to do here, you have to start with focused use cases. Check that, I have a paper with Arab Monetary Fund. I'm part of the FinTech Work Group, and we had a paper about AI in the Arab world. And we're discussing about this one. I think the use case, it's selecting a use case which can AI play a role in making this happening, solving a customer problem, operation efficiency, risk, and so on. You make sure that AI can fit into, the technology can fit into here. You need to make sure that you start small, focused, and then carry on and scale later on. The problem also about AI project, I have implemented some AI algorithms even outside banking. It does take time. It's not like you go to your CEO and the CFO, we're gonna get this one, 4 months, 5 months, your sales will be like that. It doesn't happen. I think Srinivasan was talking about 8 months to put the governance model. Now, if you put a model and you want to train the model, you want to tune the model, you want to go A/B testing, you want to do this and that, it does take time, and many times you might not get the same result which you can see it in the movie or in whatever the vendor is telling you about. because you need to do lots of tuning and lots of work has to be done there. So you have to make sure also you set the expectation for your management that this will take some time, costs might be high in the beginning, till you tune the model, and then really you're gonna get a good result. So you have to see all of these realities and putting it right. Start small, failing fast. I have hear it a lot. The problem also about AI projects is that data and legacy. AI is not a machine or an algorithm, need data. You have lots of silos, lots of legacy. If your data and all of the infrastructure is not ready, then we have a problem. So you have to make sure that you are looking at all of these aspects. Start small, fix things, and move forward. Now the security and risk is very important. But if I told you what kind of security and risk in AI, you will say, people penetrating, whatever. No, it's not. I think from discussion, I think accountability becomes the highest from my point of view. You have an AI algorithm, the algorithm will take a decision. If it's wrong decision, what will happen? Who is responsible here? You have an AI bias as well. You have too many things when it comes to AI model, different from the normal governance model which you use for the normal IT and technology. So also you need to do some kind of changes at the, at the talent people you are having, people also the project itself because of bias. So the AI project itself is different from implementing a normal IT project. So all of these aspects need to be taken care into consideration. Start small, test, scale, and so on. So this is my, humble opinion about, the vibe or hype which we are having in AI.
So wonderful. It clarifies, although there is an excitement, but the reality is on the ground when you come to implement it is different, where we start small, scale it, make it practically usable.
That is true. And it's nothing called plug and play. It becomes plug and pray sometimes. So you have to be careful. So really, you have to make sure that you are, as I said, these models, it doesn't, any vendor comes and said, okay, hey, we're going to give it to you. It will be wow. No, it will never happen. Unless there's no AI there, because you're doing maybe, if you're doing RBA, I agree. But it's not an AI actually. So you have to make sure really that your results might take time. You have to be realistic here. Thank you.
So let's come, Ali, to you. Backbase has always been at the center of customer experience, customer engagement. Yeah? And with agentic AI into play these days, so agentic AI is beginning to enable customer experience, which go from the reactive chatbot to proactive customer experience and context-based experience. From a Backbase perspective, how do you see AI reshaping customer experience and the engagement models?
Thank you for the question. I think let's take a look at what's kind of there and what needs to improve. So if you look at what's kind of there, you hear words like hyper-personalization, but what does that really mean? What that means is I get some dynamic content on my application. Maybe how I'm segmented, my user screen looks different. Me versus a high net worth individual, we will get two different look and feels, right? What you see today is AI-powered assistants that are helping with customer service or FAQ-related activities. And ultimately, what you're also seeing quite prevalently is in terms of how that dynamic content or next best offer is being presented to you, it's being presented from an aggregate perspective, right? It's not really a segment of one, but it is a form of segmentation that has become a bit more active. But I think people like using the word predictive, right? And lifestyle orchestration based. So it's an interesting example. Quite recently, my wife and I were blessed with a baby. And as is usual, many of the parents in this room will know that, during this time, you go ahead and purchase car seats and baby bottles and 5,000 other items. All of these transactions, we bank with 4 banks across the UAE, very large institutions. They can see how rapidly we were swiping our cards as first-time parents and how rapidly we were using the applications, etc., to try and find offers. However, not a single bank gave a single banner saying, look, even if we understand that you did 3 transactions at Mama's and Papa's, here is a 4th potential offer at some other shop. whereby you can go and purchase some sort of baby item with some sort of offer presented, right? And I think that is what is highlighted in terms of a gap from a retail perspective, where banks have the data on your lifestyle. They know what is the relevant activity that is happening in today's context. But for some reason, based on that event, we don't even get the right offer in place. And I think when it comes to how this is being enabled, CX does not only drive top-line growth, right? My argument is that a 2 to 4% increase in customer retention or prevention of customer churn or an upsell, cross-sell, generally speaking, might outweigh the benefits of a cost reduction in the risk or operations arena, for example. However, what you do notice as well is that in these contexts, when it comes to productivity, though we've used AI to improve operational efficiency, we say we've used it to improve collaboration. We have yet to come to a point where we've used it even internally to identify the impact on end-to-end customer experience. For example, if I've got risk and governance and security all doing the various changes that they're doing from an operational perspective, today the capability exists that the impact of a specific change on a security posture or an operational posture, leveraging AI, will be able to give you an understanding of what the impact would be to the end customer, right? And I think this is one of those pieces that's kind of missing, where if the entire organization starts sharing that deep knowledge-rooted framework, leveraging AI capabilities to understand better that, okay, if the risk department does X, what is the impact on the customer? If another department does Y, what is the impact on the customer? And start making decisions based on that. Because at the end of the day, to your earlier question, Pankul, the reason why people keep going back to Netflix, in addition to their brilliant, it's not just their content repository. Amazon has the same content, Disney has the same content. It's the predictive nature of being able to identify the TV series and movies that I am most relevant in. And that also comes as a factor of back office improvement and operations, leveraging what the impact on the customer will be. I think CX in general needs to start moving away from static content-based labels that we're labeling as hyper-personalization or modernization into more of lifetime-focused, event-based driven activities, which predominantly in this market is still missing.
Very well. So I'll put a lot of things, what you said, and try to get a perspective from you, Venkat. You have been a fintech, and see, a lot of what all the three gentlemen said, practically a lot of things which are happening on generative AI, only 10% of those things practically see light of the day. A lot may be happening, but 90% of those stuff gets killed like a waste. Now my question to you is, what is the biggest hurdle you see preventing AI being adopted at scale in financial institutions or banks, or per se your company or a fintech?
Okay, first of all, good afternoon, everyone. Like I say, explained, right? There is a lot of hype around AI. AI has become like the Tabasco sauce today in technology. Sprinkle AI on anything, it becomes palatable, right? And like as you said, hardly 10% of the POCs go to production. Okay? Going back to your first question you were asking, right? Does Netflix know you better versus a bank knows you better? My personal view would be that a bank will never know you as much as what Netflix can know you. Reason being is that banks work in a very regulated world, not like Netflix. And I don't know how many of you will remember, and this is actually almost a 10-year-old story. Target in US was able to predict a shopper whether they are pregnant or not, down to which trimester of pregnancy by looking at the basket of goods they purchase. Okay? It came out on the paper. They went and changed some methods. Not that they didn't continue the practice of predicting whether the shopper is pregnant or not, but they just changed the way they did the messaging, but it didn't impact them in any way. Okay? Now in our world, what we tend to call this is that when whatever you're doing appears in the first page, what is going to be the impact to your reputation? Now, reputation risk to banks is much higher than other industries. Okay? So, to your question, what do I see as a major challenge? Major challenge is having a proper model, safe, governed framework that is regulator ready and can work at scale. Okay? Like how Mr. Sampath explained about how FAB is progressing in this, honestly, I don't see a lot of banks doing that. See, most start by doing POCs, which is great. Some of them go to production, nice. But then you now have a spread of models across the organization. Now, what regulators are looking for, and it has become even law in some of the places, like for example, UST AI Act. Okay? Key principles are governance, explainability is important. If your model says somebody can be given a loan or a loan is rejected, you should be able to explain as to why it was given and why it was rejected. This is true even in what UK came up with last year, UK regulators came up with last year, US has come up with. So the biggest challenge is how do you have a framework which is governance ready and able to explain the decisions of the models, okay, and do it at a scale. Because when you start deploying AI across the bank, because most of the conversations when we have with the CIOs or CEOs of banks is, how can my bank become AI first bank? Okay? One CEO told me in this, one of the banks in the region, 12 months from now, I can't see any process in the bank not influenced by AI. So when you start deploying AI at this scale, you're literally talking of hundreds of models, potentially developed by multiple vendors. Some of it could be internal, some of it could be by external vendors, some could be packaged solution. Okay? How all of them are going to come together and be able to conform to the model risk management framework which regulators are championing. Okay? That I see as the biggest hurdle.
So Ali, when you just had a baby, did something similar happen when you went to Carrefour and somebody's told, okay, wife is pregnant, take this?
No, but I think the rule of thumb is when you're having a baby, they want to take as much money as they can from you. So you don't get any help.
So great. I think overall, Venkat, if I had to summarize, you relate a lot in what Sampath said, setting the right governance internally, aligning it to regulator if you really want to these AI use cases to see the light of the day. And again, going small, as Roushdy said, going small and then scaling it up. I'll open it for audience in case there are any questions. Yeah.
Hi, this is for any of you. For any technology to become a GPT, which is a general purpose technology, the surround systems need to take that up pretty much, right? So you have AI. Now, the unsung hero of this is cloud. Okay, with cloud, you had ML, and now you have AI. Unless the surround system is going to take this and going to run this pretty well, how do you think banks will really push forward this AI agenda? Even in spite of whatever it is, probably it will take a lot longer. That is one. And two is, there's a lot of focus that's happening on the internal processes. How will the customer ever know that you're doing all of that and they can benefit out of whatever AI that's happening so that that's beneficial for them? So just two questions.
Okay, I think you're absolutely right. The ecosystem has to help when we want to deploy new technologies. Especially with large banks, you carry a lot of legacy technology, which are so, tightly coupled with each other. What we started doing a couple of years back, at least from our perspective, is to simplifying the architecture. So we started opening up the architecture. We started decoupling, the so much of, legacy segments that we have. So we started slowly opening up the architecture. We started slowly making it more open to new technologies, new environments, and all those things. So that is a foundation which we started some time back. So which is helping us to, to deploy any sort of a new technology coming in so that the reliance on the legacy layer is a little bit taken away. And that is an evolving process actually. We'll keep going on. We'll just start replacing legacy applications with new applications. We make it more open, more API based, more microservices based, so that any sort of new technology, yes, you're absolutely right. The ecosystem needs to be ready if it needs to be support. And second, I think he spoke about data. So data is one of the key aspects of making sure that, because all of us know that in the financial services industry, we don't have a completely clean data. Right? Because we carry data of customers which is probably 30 years old, 40 years old, for which you don't have a lot of relevant information available. So that plays also huge part of making sure the right data is available for us to deploy these services and capabilities. And when we talk about deploying this AI and progressively improving, we need to clearly know that what is sensitive use case and what is a non-sensitive use case. For example, if you want to deploy on a research-based use case, it's not very sensitive because it's not a decision-making process. Whenever we want to deploy AI which is going to help in decision-making process, today it's still human-assisted. Like you are not allowing AI to completely take the decision and then go forward. It enables the person who is taking the decision so that the decision becomes much more faster than what probably you would have done later. So we're just slowly making the ecosystem to be ready to support these capabilities.
So Vinayak, yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Satish Grampurohit here. I'm the CEO and founder of CogniQuest AI. I have come here from Bangalore. Very insightful discussions. So good to see that you're all trying to balance the expectation and hype and reality. See, but there is also this fear of missing out. Every board apparently is asking the CIOs and CTOs, what are you doing with AI? But on the other side, this MIT report, which was published recently, it says only about 5% of Gen AI projects are successful, rest 95 are failing, right? So what are the real practical limitations you are seeing while deploying Gen AI LLM-based things? Because while they write about multiple high-level things, since you're all practitioners who are driving it on the ground, what are the limitations that you're seeing on the ground in terms of adoption of Gen AI LLMs in your business processes?
Maybe Roushdy, you want to take this up?
That's a good point. Let me ask you, how long we heard about Gen AI? A year back or 2 years back? So to be fair, this is a nascent, time. I think people will still in the predictive analytics or predictive whatever is happening in AI. And I think there is a cycle and hype cycle. I think the Gen AI, it's mainly the big change here is more the content generation, where you can do lots of things for customers and then a chatbot and so on. All this you can even create something for customers, send it and so on. So there is some use cases which is still maybe around research and other, interaction with customers, which can really become more viable to do. And as I said, I think Gen AI came in the market, and after a few months, everybody else said, okay, we have Gen AI use cases. So it does mean there is some time to take to really get a Gen AI or whatever. It's a part of AI, I would say. But I think we're still banks in the data silos, legacy, getting the legacy and everything. And then you are able to make predictive analytics. You are able to get personalization to your customer. And all of this, you're still in it. And then AI came for the consumer, and everybody think, okay, is it there? But not there. I have to tell you, most of what people say Gen AI use cases, there is no Gen AI use cases. It's in AI use cases. The Gen AI, the major difference between Gen AI and other is the content. It creates content like what you do with, with the ChatGPT, with Claude, with everything. It does great from the available contents. You need to bring this one into your ecosystem, get it all, and try to do use cases around it and where it can help you out. But I would say yes, because it's still a new thing, and I don't believe that all this 5% is not bad, by the way. If it's 5%, it's a good news for me, because I think even in the other use cases for AI, maybe 20-25% was successful. So if we have 5% successful in Gen AI, that means a good news. But it's still, from my point of view, it's still a nascent technology.
I think just to add to that as well, I think you also have to kind of prioritize which use cases you're taking into play and what the impact of those would be. For example, you take most banks have certain loyalty programs, as I was mentioning earlier, right? To be able to just go into your banking app and say, I'm going through this XYZ life event, and it aggregates a loyalty program for me based on agreements that are already in place, will enable me to be using that banking credit card a lot more than some other credit card because I know this facility exists. This does not require significant, as Sampath was mentioning, decision-making criterion, right? This is something that can easily be stitched together, which will drive impact for a customer. It's a lot easier use case to implement. Prior to AI would take months, but now can take potentially weeks if done in the right way. Then, of course, you have the more heavier decision-making related use cases, which obviously, to Roushdy's point, will be much more complicated and need some more thought.
See, there are mainly 3 challenges. One is expectation management, because the expectation varies across different levels. Expectation management is key thing. Second is skills availability. Today, I think we have a lot of challenge in terms of skills availability. That's one challenge. And third is basically, are we still there to calculate the ROI of the agentic AI use cases? I think still, if you ask me, it's work in progress. We are completely not there whether deploying agents or giving the right ROI. But the mindset is there to invest. So initially we'll invest and see that how it's going to basically turn into tangible ROI.
Yeah, I mean, to add to that, last year, most of the CXO discussions were around what are the use cases in Gen AI. This year, it's all about where is ROI. Because Gen AI is not exactly inexpensive, okay? And it's also the selection of what is the right kind of a use case with which you want to get started. Ideal use cases where you can show an ROI and quote unquote safely implement are more in the operations area rather than necessarily rushing to do customer facing ones. So some of the financial organizations we work with, they say in the first 1 or 2 years, I'm not going to do anything that is customer facing with Gen AI. It'll all be more oriented towards operations efficiency because there the ROI can be very easily defined and shown. And unless you have the operations, done using Gen AI, Agentic AI, and other framework, there is no point trying to become as an entire bank driven by AI.
This brings me to the same argument I said. We said we try to fit technology, or our business into technology. We said we have to go Gen AI because there is Gen AI everybody's using in his hand, then we have to bring it to banking. But if it's not ready, why I have to? Why have to be Gen AI? It will be AI. There is a use case for a customer. The bank, you need to do something. You need to save money. You need to take care of fraud, personalization, and so on. And what technology will fit? Might not be Gen AI, maybe something else. So the point here, that's why the failure will be high, because we try to fit the businesses into a hype with technology coming, and it's become wow in our hand. We need to do the same. So this is my humble opinion on it. And later on, once it is really, mature, then you can find real use cases happening, and then others will not be there.
There's one more last question.
Yeah, here.
There, okay. Okay, there are 2 questions, sorry.
Yeah, this is Manoj from AQM Technologies. See, 2 things. One side, we are telling AI will take over entire thing. Second side, we are saying decision making, still we need a human intervention. So if we take this stand, if you see in the education side also, engineering now they are adding AI, cloud, everything in that. Initially it was not there. So considering the newcomers who are coming from college, they are also talking about AI. When we will reach a stage where AI will take a decision rather than, can be 10% or 20% okay, human intervention on decision making. When the AI can take over at least 80% of that. Next 5 years, 3 years, when we are targeting. As per current situation, newcomers also knowing AI is not that they don't know AI, they're coming with that idea actually. So when we can actually say 80% AI can take a decision making. So this is what my question.
First, you have to define what is 100%. Because that 100% is a moving target, right? It's not that today I am 100%, so for this 80% I'll cover. Once you reach that 80%, your line of 100% moves, right? There's never a situation where I can say that I have reached 80%. Of course, we can measure the adoption going on, but the line will keep moving on, the target will keep moving on, because the technologies will keep emerging, new things will coming in. So it will just keep moving, but how do we measure is that how much of certain areas, for example, you can easily measure developer productivity. It's not very difficult to measure developer productivity. How many lines of code I'm writing today, and after 2 years, how many lines of code is getting generated by Gen AI? That's easy to measure, right? But that's not the only measure. Right? There are so many other things which will happen. So it will keep evolving. Your 100% baseline will keep moving. And as long as we know that we are progressing and improving, that's where we need to see. Yeah.
Yeah, Srinivas, one question. Are we agreeing ourselves that it will take time? Or sometimes some of the audience, some of the people will say, yes, AI will take over next 2 years, 3 years. So two ways of discussions happening. One side, most of the discussions, when I was discussing with people, they said next 2 years, 3 years, entire AI will take over. But reality is different.
See,
So
you have to look at the evolution, I think, vertical by vertical, right? For example, if you purely pick technology, probably adoption in 3 years will be much higher graph perspective. If you take business use case, probably not as high as technology. It will take its time because it has its own consequences, nuances, and all those things. If you take cyber security, probably there's a high, percentage of adoption in the next 2 to 3 years. So you have to look at vertical wise and see how the verticals are improving as we go along. In 3 years' time, if you ask me, yes, technology and cyber security adoption will be in a very high percentage, right? Where business use cases probably still evolving because of the consequence and the risks involved in it, right?
Thanks.
There is one more question. Yeah.
Thank you. Scott Walker from Essentio. Nice to meet you all. My question's really around, we've heard much about CX and the jungle, as I would call it, of AI. I wanted to ask the panel around about EX, employee experience, and the future of workforce strategy. We all know that happy advisors breed typically happy customers. And obviously customer experience is a differentiator. So I guess my question is really about how do banks ensure employees are aligned to the bank's digital vision?
Yeah, maybe I'll take a stab at that. I think the employee experience part is absolutely critical as it's a driver towards customer experience. And to your point on, if you look at advisory, for example, one of the standard challenges that you quite regularly see is advisors not having a 360 view of the customer. Advisors not being able to support due to a fragmented customer experience. Right? I start something on the mobile, I walk into a branch, the advisor has no clue as to what I just did, why did I do it, I have to start the whole process from scratch. These are, as earlier panelists have also been saying, relatively basic, right? These components through the leveraging of Gen AI and other capabilities is quite easily manageable, right? And then you get into more complicated or more complex process-driven use cases. But I think ultimately as a starting point, being able to get a 360 understanding of your specific customer in terms of where they are in a specific process and what the next step should be. That is a low-tier, very manageable use case that currently exists today. I think the more, and that's the reason why they call it assistant, right? Because ultimately they are that AI capability, regardless of which area of the bank you sit in internally, is effectively serving as your partner, as your colleague, someone you bounce ideas off of, and someone that you continue to have a conversation with in order to improve your specific job function. I think that does require an arena of change management, but as we can see, I mean, raise of hands, who uses ChatGPT or other on a daily basis today? I think majority of this room, right? So that adoption has already occurred to a relatively decent extent. With the advent of Copilot, Gemini, other workforce-related tools and softwares, that capability is increasing further and further. Now, what those impacts would be ultimately from a customer experience perspective, that is something that we still need to continue to measure and see.
Great. Thank you. That was insightful. So I have my last question now, and considering the time, I'll request We respond in 15 seconds each. So if you had to pick, I know Venkat, you answered part of the question. Okay, I'll come to you last. If you have to pick one area where AI will create the biggest disruption in next 24, I mean not say 24 hours, nothing will happen in 24 hours, 24 months. And I'll give you, for example, 3 areas: customer experience, risk, operations. Which one would you choose and why? And let's start, Roushdy, with you.
Next to Alice, I will say customer experience. So, no, I will say customer experience because the customer also is looking for many things from us because he's using this, all these tools. And I think operation and risks and others has been there for a while. There is lots of work happening in the backside. So I think the front end and the customer experience will be the one, not the back office. Back office is happening already. Nobody knows, but it's happening already.
I'm going to side with Roushdy. So I think, it is definitely still customer experience in my point of view. I also think not only because of the impact on customer experience is relatively measurable, right? You know what net promoter score is, you know what churn levels are, you know how loyalty programs are being engaged on, so on and so forth. So every percentile change in that capability is relatively manageable and has top line impact, which is important. But I think the second layer is that it also enables banks and other financial institutions to get into more of the ecosystem plays which are prevalent from an open banking and other financial context, right? So with the advent of Gen AI, as Roushdy was saying, you can co-create content with the bank. You can make and tailor-make a specific offer that is most beneficial to you, given your life codes and given where you want to be in a certain time horizon. These capabilities hit multiple checkpoints. They not only enable me to engage with the bank on a regular basis, but they also enable me to remain with this bank because it's giving me a tailor-made benefit for myself. And I think the stats are beginning to prove it, right? The average Revolut user opens their Revolut banking application approximately 3 times a day, right? You look at Weo Bank here in the region. They have an open rate of approximately 2 to 3 times a day as well, right? So the more intuitive the experience, the more and more you're going back towards the specific application. And then that is driving other behaviors.
Sampath, your view?
I think the customer journeys will definitely see a big improvement in terms of the way the customer feel the journeys, because we will become part of the ecosystem now, because it's not going to be only a financial institution's journey. We are going to become part of the journey of the ecosystem. So when you become part of the ecosystem, I think that's going to make a big difference in the next probably 24 to 30 months.
So interesting, Venkat, in the previous question you said operations. Now you have to justify why operations, because 3 gentlemen believes customer experience.
You have the influence now, So.
All right, so I'm going against the majority. No, see, if you look at it, whether it is customer experience or risk or operations, all of them are changing. I mean, hyper-personalization, this is not the first year we are hearing about it, right? We heard about it in 5 years back, 10 years back. Segment of one, it's not new. I mean, that book was written probably, 15, 20 years back, right? So I would say the improvement in all the 3 areas are happening. But I'm putting the bet on operations as where the maximum impact, where AI, agentic AI will happen. Because, see, as I explained earlier, right, unless you get this perfect, you can't excel in other aspects. Okay? For example, if you take something simple like customer service, a lot of banks are implementing agentic AI or Gen AI on customer service as a first step. It looks like a easy, low-hanging fruit. Then comes the question, why should even a customer call me for customer support? Can't I figure out that this person is having a problem and automatically solve the problem rather than waiting for the customer to come? Okay? I call that as an operations use case. Likewise around risk management and cybersecurity. So, and like as I said earlier also, your ROI is a lot more easy to explain in this. Easy to calculate, easy to show that this is the savings or whatever benefits we got out of deploying AI in the operations side. So that's why I'm putting my bet on operations.
Thank you. Excellent discussion. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.